Welcome to this episode of the Meat Medic podcast. Today, as I'm recording this, it's the 21st of March 2023, and today is Harmony Day in Australia. Harmony Day is a day to celebrate diversity and to foster inclusiveness. And I wanted to make a quick episode on this today and how it pertains to the low carb, keto, and carnivore space that I'm in. Now, I'm sure most of my followers, most of the people listening to this in their cars, a podcast, and of course watching on YouTube, they're going to know that I currently do a carnivore diet. Most people on the carnivore diet will do pretty close to zero carb, zero plants. Myself, I pretty much do a full pure carnivore. I'm actually still doing my 30 days of ribeye at the moment. To be honest, I'll be pretty glad when that's over in about 7 days, because I'd like to eat a bit more intuitively, but that's not why I made this episode. Now, I actually wanted to discuss the divide that we seem to have between different kind of groups of carnivores, and of course, the big divide that we have between carnivore and plant-based. Most people refer to them as vegans. Now, the carnivore community can be quite divisive at times and divided as well. And I thought, given that this is Harmony Day today, I thought it was quite apt to make this episode. Now, I've alluded to this issue in previous episodes on my podcast, but I was reminded again of this recently. I won't mention the Facebook group, but I was temporarily banned for mentioning fruit. That was it. A simple mention of fruit. Now, they'll probably ban me forever if they listen to this episode, but oh well, I can live with that. But talk about division amongst carnivores. Even the mere mention of fruit was enough to attract a temporary ban. Yet there's loads of people doing carnivore out there eating fruit. I've had people on my channel before talking about eating fruit. If we can't have even a simple discussion, how can anyone actually learn from each other? How can we learn anything? Now, to me, that's not inclusive. That's very divisive. Not really in the spirit of Harmony Day. To me, it seems crazy to ban people from talking about their diet with other people. I mean, that just makes no sense to me. But this is just one example, of course. But you go onto some other popular carnivore forums on Facebook, Reddit, and so on, and you just see people fighting and arguing with each other that their way is the best. That, no, this influencer said this, so you have to follow that. Or, no, what you're doing is totally stupid and dangerous, and you're just going to kill yourself. You need to do it my way or the highway. I mean, we've got some people eating fruit, some people eating vegetables, some eating honey, some of them are drinking milk, some of them raw milk, some don't. Some of them are eating eggs, some don't. Some eat just lamb and not beef. Yet so often they're called out for their nonsense. Nonsense, quote unquote. They're ridiculed. Or, told, well, you're just going to die because you're not doing it the way that I do it. And you get all these furious keyboard warriors, harassing them because they want them to change. This is just crazy to me. It's not like there's some rule book that we have to follow that's just infallible in nature. By its nature, the carnivore diet, it's not really evidence-based, in as much as we don't have the evidence for it. We don't have randomized control trials, and there's very little to, if any, real peer-reviewed studies. There's a couple of small studies like the Harvard study, for example, but it's not a supermassive study. But carnivore diet is logical, and it follows physiological processes, and it makes sense. But there's disagreement on the nuances. And even long-term carnivores, people that basically essentially kind of made this diet-ish, like people like Dr. Sean Baker, he still says he doesn't know what the perfect diet is. And he's totally cool with people doing what they feel is right. But he does believe that maybe there is a proper base for people, and that's essentially pure carnivore. I think we can all learn a little bit more about the carnivore diet if and basically what diet is best for us individually if we're actually willing to listen to each other and talk to each other a little bit more, learn from each other's experiences. And that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast is teach people my experiences so that they can then use them and apply them to themselves. It doesn't mean that we have to eat exactly the same as what other people are eating. We're all one human species, but we're all metabolically different. So there's going to be nuances. But maybe we can learn from each other, and we might just be a bit more open to seeing what might actually work for us if we're willing to listen. Now, that's about carnivores versus carnivores, but what about carnivores versus vegans? Now, you can understand why there's going to be a divide here. On the surface, these are totally opposite ideologies, completely incompatible with each other. One is pure meat, the other one's pure not meat, basically. Quite literally both ends of the spectrum with absolutely no middle ground. Or is there? I actually think we have more similarities than differences. But let me explain. Most vegans and most carnivores will tell you that they do their way of eating, their lifestyle, their diet, to try and improve their health. That's not exclusive to either one. Both groups feel they can improve their health through their diet. And both groups understand the importance of diet. I was doing an interview with Dr. Nilam just before we were recording this episode, which is going to be out in a few weeks. And we were discussing this, basically people saying, we can all agree that diet is important. And that's the common ground. We may differ on the approach, but not on the underlying principle that what we eat is important to our health, physically and mentally. Most vegans and most carnivores will also tell you that they care deeply about animals and don't want to see them harmed or hurt in any way possible. Now, again, there's clearly a difference here in that, carnivores are eating the animals, but that doesn't mean that they don't appreciate them and the sacrifice they're making so that we can have nutrition. I think this is maybe most evident in those who go hunting. Now, I did an episode previously with Rory where we discussed bow hunting, and he was basically saying how, it's actually a very deep, meaningful spiritual endeavor. This is not just going out trophy hunting. And this is echoed on shows like Keto Savage podcast, where Robert Sykes, the host, he talks a lot about hunting with his friends and how he finds it a very spiritual exercise, a real bonding experience with his friends. But he also speaks about how deeply he appreciates that ultimate sacrifice that those animals are making. They're providing him with sustenance, with life. Without that, he wouldn't be able to survive. We wouldn't be able to survive. Farmers, they say the same about their livestock. I've never met a farmer who didn't care deeply for their animals. The ones that I know, and I've got a few in my family, they would do whatever they can to keep their animals happy and healthy. And they would never mistreat them. And they are so grateful and thankful for that ultimate sacrifice that those animals are making for them. Another area of common ground I think we have with vegans and carnivores is, on the whole, we both care deeply about the environment and the planet. Again, clearly there's a difference of opinion on how best to do this. Vegans claim that livestock and cow farts, sorry, it's hilarious, are destroying the planet. Whereas carnivores say that monocrop farming and, for plant agriculture is destroying habitats and rainforests. But at least again, we can agree the environment is important And we all want to protect it, and we all want to see it maintained for the good of the planet and the human race. Both groups also tend to care very much about the quality of the food that they consume, and generally want to consume as minimally processed food as possible. Although, in my experience, this is maybe where carnivores do seem to put a little bit more thought into what they're consuming or the products that they're using on their skin, for example. It's hard to know for sure, but I don't know that many vegans, so it's hard to know. But carnivores certainly seem to go to great lengths to ensure that they're using very clean, very pure products where possible. I've even seen people creating their own toothpaste, shampoo, body butter. Apparently, whipped tallow is very good for that one. But I think we can all agree that the quality of our food is very important. I mean, on that note, I've actually started experimenting with bicarbonate of soda and pink Himalayan salt as the toothpaste. It sounds a bit odd, but to be honest, it's actually great. It's very refreshing in a weird way, and my teeth are so shiny. And it's really nice and just not putting those chemicals in my mouth. I'm also getting into essential oils. That's something that carnivores also get into on the whole, as well as vegans as well. So again, these are things that we actually have in common. I think it's pretty safe to say that there are very clear differences between the approach, but both vegans and carnivores can agree on a number of things. I think if we actually took the time to try and talk and actually discuss things, rather than simply accusing each other of just trying to destroy the planet, well, actually, maybe we could learn something from each other. And perhaps we could all teach each other something, and we can all improve our diet and all improve our health. So, on today's Harmony Day, I would encourage people to just maybe take a step back, think about the divisions within these communities, and think about what they can do to maybe just lessen those divisions a little bit. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Meat Medic podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give me a 5-star rating on your podcast platform of choice. It really does help me out. And please, if you're on YouTube, hit that like button, share it to your friends and family. Also, a subscription would be great as well. I also want to take the opportunity to just again mention my weight loss and carnivore support groups are available through my Patreon, link in the description. And of course, my health courses are going to be going live very soon as well. Thank you guys, and I will see you in the next episode.